It is perhaps the forgotten revolution of the Arab Spring. Events happening away from the cameras in what is the smallest of the Arab states of the Persian Gulf, wedged between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the tiny country of Bahrain. It began on the 14th of February 2011. In the aftermath of uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt, thousands of people gathering in the centre of the capital, Manama, for a day of anger. For several weeks, the Pearl Roundabout became the focus of the dispute as protesters demanded more democracy and social justice. The repression immediate and violent as the army and police fired on the demonstrators. The Sunni royal family, the Al Khalifas, though, felt threatened, denouncing an Iranian plot and requesting military aid from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. And just a month after the protests started, Saudi forces, including tanks, entered Manama.
This Wednesday, March 16, 2011, the General Defense Command is officially announcing that the General Security Forces and the National Guard, with the support of the Defense Forces of Bahrain, have started an operation to clean up Pearl Square, Bahrain's financial harbour, as well as the Al Salmania hospital and the surrounding area. They will evacuate the outlaws who have terrorized citizens and residents and who have undermined the country's economy.
The repression became tighter. Even if the movement had no central pillar, the violence mainly targeting the Shiites, who represent the majority of the population. Several hundred opponents arrested, tortured, stripped of their nationality. Dozens of people missing. The monument on Pearl Roundabout, which became such a symbol of the revolution, pulled down by the authorities. Well, 10 years on, the Bahrain Spring appears just a distant memory. The king is still in power and the face of the demonstrations that still spring up sporadically, the monarchy responding to more liberal values and economic development. Manama, now seen as a financial centre and a land of opportunity. A country which remains one of the most closed and secretive in the region, has therefore opened its doors to our reporters. Chloe Doma and Miyuki Droz-Aramaki revisit Bahrain for France 24.
Welcome to Block 338, one of the hippest neighborhoods of the Middle East, but also one of the least known. This evening, MAZEN MASKATI, a bar owner in the district, has brought a DJ all the way from Berlin.
I can't do that.
In the most conservative region of the world, the Arabic Peninsula, Manama now wants to be a leader in the nightlife industry.
Should be in a good night, hopefully. Mainly Bahrainis and Saudis and Europeans as well, so it's a really mixed crowd. In the past 20 years, we've seen so many different concepts of F&B opening here in Bahrain.
This is the image the authorities are keen to give off of a festive and liberal society. To serve this mixed clientele of locals and expats, the bar also recruits skilled workers internationally, like this barman from London.
What's up, bro? Yeah, no, they drink like a surprising amount compared to what I was expecting when I first came to Bahrain. But they drink the same, if not more, than us back home.
Like in almost every bar across the city, the majority of clients here are from Saudi Arabia, where alcohol is forbidden and wearing a veil compulsory for women. Timmy parties here every weekend with his friends.
Bahrain is everything for us. Just cross the bridge like for 1 hour, and then we are in Bahrain. We can plan any time and just go to Bahrain, have a good night, get back the same day.
For some, the evening ends in the Manama red light district, known for its large number of cheap hotels and escort girls. Every year, the archipelago attracts around 12 million visitors, with 10 million arriving via this bridge linking the country to Saudi Arabia. It's nicknamed the Johnny Walker Bridge in reference to the whiskey brand. Every weekend, there's a bottleneck at the border crossing. In Bahrain, talk of alcohol and even prostitution is tolerated. But one subject remains taboo: the tensions between the Sunni monarchy and Shia majority. During the so-called Arab Spring, Pearl Roundabout was the flashpoint for protests. Since then, the monument's been bulldozed and the site transformed into a motorway interchange, a place forbidden to cameras. We take the opportunity to film during a taxi ride and ask discreet questions.
What did they destroy here?
We broken this, you see, before here roundabout. Lulu is behind there. And the military is security for 8-9 years. Then he opened. Because here the Shia Sunni is problem, you know. Okay. Yeah, too much problem before. Now it's okay. 1 year it's okay, nothing. Otherwise, all Friday he will do fire like that. You know the tire? Some area after 7, no light. No light, nothing. Police never go inside.
Faced with the popular revolt, the Al Khalifa Sunni dynasty refused all political concessions. Economic investment was their sole response. Standing as a symbol of their desire to move on, the new icon of Manama is an ultra-modern tower, the Bahrain World Trade Center. Officially, everything is going well. That's the impression they want to give by inviting journalists into the kingdom. Throughout our stay, we are accompanied by a driver and a guide, both responsible for showing off the economic boom in the Gulf's smallest country. Our first stop on the itinerary is Manama's brand new industrial zone. Ala Darwish is the regional director for the world's 7th biggest dairy producer, which has decided to operate here.
We have the Italian manufacturer Ariston next door, and we have a German manufacturer in the neighborhood as well, which is BASF.
In front of his factory sits the only cow in the kingdom, a plastic one.
How is our production planning? All good? Let's see how our
Despite the
products
lack of dairy farming, the Scandinavian multinational has been happy to invest 50 million euros in a production line for processed cheese, based on imported produce from Europe.
Can we load the cheddar?
The authorities want to prove that their small territory can become a regional hub by offering tax and customs advantages on top of a convenient nearby port and airport. An argument echoed by Ala's representative.
All our markets are surrounding Bahrain. So this is why the location here is ideal. Consistently, this is the growing market. When you look to compare it to Europe or compare it to the States, this region is always growing.
There is an urgency behind these developments. Bahrain was the first country to discover oil in the 1930s, but also the first to see its reserves run out. Unlike other petro-monarchies where many citizens can live off the oil money, the majority of Bahrainis have to work. The public university teaches around 29,000 students. One of them, Salman, has allowed us to spend the day with him. He doesn't mention his faith. It's not something talked about here. But he is keen to discuss youth unemployment.
Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to work on Lab 5.
Here in Bahrain, it's really difficult to find a job. It's like a nightmare for university students these days because they see their friends or their family members always graduating and sitting at home for like a year or two or maybe more without a job.
إذا ما اشتغل لك, can you share with your friends? Instant or scale down.
To increase his chances, Salman is studying cloud computing from a syllabus devised by American digital giant Amazon. The university boasts of its multiple partnerships with private sector companies like Microsoft and Huawei. Despite the outpouring of national pride on this festival day, the 20-year-old student says he's not feeling optimistic for his generation. According to him, the multinationals do not recruit enough Bahrainis and are mainly just looking for cheap foreign labor.
لو سمحتون
بس مال الستاند مال كلية الاي تي في وينه؟ The difficulty is that the country is so small, but the amount of people that resident in this country is very large. More than half of them are not even Bahraini, and companies employ people from outside the country because they have more experience, they can pay them less.
Officially, the unemployment rate in Bahrain has not risen above 4%. In reality, it's likely to be much higher and mainly affects the Shia majority. Access to employment was one of the protesters' main demands in 2011. We slip away from our guides and head for the Shia neighborhoods. Nowadays, they're calm, but anti-royal slogans are still scribbled on the walls, even if the authorities have tried to cover them up. The monarchy has been accused of favouring foreign Sunni workers for jobs, which could be to consolidate their dominance, but could also allow them to rebalance the country's demographics. After cancelling a number of meetings out of fear of reprisals, one Shia activist finally agreed to talk to us in a hotel room.
Right up until today, the highest positions can't be occupied by Shiites because the state considers the Shiites responsible for the 2011 crisis. But for 5 years, the Shiites aren't alone in having difficulties in finding work. The Sunnis also. The state has naturalized Pakistanis, the Sudanese, the Syrians, and has employed them even in the place of Sunnis. In the private sector, it's the same. They're looking to make profits, and foreigners are less expensive, so they're prioritized. For example, how can the Minister of Education justify hiring foreign professors, while Bahrainis are sitting at home? In our society, citizens aren't afraid to talk about Sunnis and Shias anymore. People have married, mixed. We've moved on from this problem. It's up to the authorities now to get over it.
Cut off from their own people and reaching the end of their oil reserves, the monarchy seems unreachable. In order to silence political demands as well as create jobs, the authorities are now focusing on the financial and tech sectors. As usual, the Sunni elite are leading the way. Heir to an oil family, Abdullah Al-Muayed has founded a startup specialized in digital data, a success story that the government would like to replicate.
But then we can actually have a full deployment team that's actually running the projects. In our lifetime, what's happening is an entire industry is being born in front of us. If data is the new oil, then we are building the modern pipelines just as our grandfathers did a very long time ago.
Convinced of his ability to transform this desert into the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, Abdullah Al-Muayed wants to modernize the financial sector. Often considered to be a tax haven, the country has almost 100 banks for only 1.5 million residents. Today, Abdullah is introducing a British colleague to the founder of a startup incubator focused on financial technology.
Alan, Khalid,
welcome to Thank you very much.
The manager is keen to show how this partly state-funded open space is at the cutting edge of innovation.
You can see the only live crypto ATM in the whole Arab world. At the moment, they're testing 2 coins. You can enable more coins after the testing phase. So if you want to buy Bitcoin, you just say buy. And if you want to sell that crypto, it will give you cash out. Thank you very much. Please have a seat.
From their privileged tech world perspective, these two entrepreneurs see the community tensions in their country as a thing of the past.
So this is an expansion, and they've got an expanded office.
Between Bahrainis, would you also say that everybody is equal to everybody?
I would say it's skills that prevail above anything else. It is that will differentiate, I think, the winners from the losers.
Listen, I mean, I'm not into politics, but I can tell you that we've seen record investments coming into this country over the past few years, and, you know, the numbers don't lie.
Turning the page and gaining access to equal opportunities are shared desires among almost all Bahraini youth. And this evening, one event will grant more possibilities for national reconciliation. It's the final of the Gulf Cup of Nations, and the match is being shown at this cafe in a poor Manama neighborhood. Salman, the student, has come to support the Bahraini team. This season, for the first time since 2011, the team has both Shia and Sunni players.
Come on, man. Nothing happened. 11 times we lost to Saudi Arabia, once we won.
Bahrain is playing Saudi Arabia, the favourites to win. But to everyone's surprise, at the 69th minute,
I am very proud of being Bahraini. Every other day I wouldn't be, but today I am proud to be Bahraini. On the long run, it definitely will have an impact. Like when we have our differences and our fights, we'll look back at days like these and we're gonna think, well, we were at some point united, so why separate now, right?
Shia and Sunni parading together in victory, under the colours of their country. A rare moment of shared national pride. But in this tiny kingdom wedged between Sunni Saudi Arabia and Shia Iran, this brief feeling of unity remains fragile.
Chloe Doma and Miyuki Droz Aramaki revisiting Bahrain for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. You can catch it and all the previous editions as well on our website. That's at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.